Hey everyone, welcome to the Finding Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Adam Vohra, and I'm so grateful to have you here. This podcast is all about exploring the journeys of incredible individuals, people who have faced adversity, found their purpose, and are now making an impact in their communities. But it's also about my journey. Over the years, I've faced my own obstacles, moments of doubt, and struggles with identity. Through it all, I found my purpose in giving back, creating a space where people can detach from the negative emotions and stigmas they may associate with their own stories, just like I did with mine. Here, we have real conversations about growth, resilience, and transformation. Whether you're searching for direction, striving for personal development, or simply looking for a place to feel seen and understood, this is for you. So if these conversations resonate with you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social media. Now let's dive into today's episode. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Finding Purpose podcast. My name is Adam, and I'm your host. As always, thank you for your continued support, your listens, shares, and reviews. They mean the world to me. This podcast is about real people, real stories, and the purpose that drives them. If you haven't already, be sure to follow, subscribe, and drop a review to help us keep building this incredible community. Last week's episode with Laura Sabia was a powerful one. Entrepreneur, editor-in-chief, and the force behind Embossed Life, Laura reminded us all what it means to lead boldly and show up fully. If you missed it, go back and give it a listen. Today, we're keeping that energy going with someone whose story is raw, real, and deeply rooted in transformation. Dan Sachkowsky. Sachkowsky. Thanks, Dan. Dan Sachkowsky is an entrepreneur, business coach, and host of the Big D podcast and Intrepidus podcast. After surviving a heart attack in 2022, Dan completely redefined what success means to him, shifting from hustle to purpose and from building wealth to building legacy. Now, he helps high performers grow their business, lead with intention, and turn adversity into fuel. This is a conversation about resilience, clarity, and leading a life that matters. Let's get into it, Dan.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thank you for making the drive. I personally know how it is. Thank you for having me on the Intrepidus podcast. That was like truly an honor because, we were connected through Wilfred, who was on both of our podcasts in the past, and it just felt right. And, it was such a great experience. So I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
In Kai Visions. This is my new studio. I'm maybe 4 episodes in here. But I really want to jump into your story because I know bits and pieces of it from my experience talking to you in Jersey. But let's just start from the beginning, man.
How beginning? You want to go back? You want to go back to the childhood days?
Yeah, like where did you grow up?
I grew up in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Okay.
And then when I was 14, we moved to a town called Howell, New Jersey. So I grew up in humble beginnings. We lived in an apartment until I was 14. My parents struggled to, make ends meet. My mom worked a ton, and, my dad was disabled early in life. And, they did everything they could. And, I don't discredit them for what they did. But, at the end of the day, like being an entrepreneur, that people could have done more. People set their rev limiter, and that's kind of like where they stop. But, they did everything they could to, give me and my brother a good life. Mm-hmm. And then when we were 14, we moved into a house. And then my grandma and grandpa came with me and my uncle. So it's kind of like we lived in an apartment again. We were rat packing this house. And I just knew that I wanted different from being a child. I didn't want the 9-to-5 hustle. I didn't want more week at the end of the money. I wanted something different. And what success was to me when I was younger, it was... and my purpose was to be successful, but to be wealthy. Like I thought money was success, and I thought money was the driver. When you see big houses, nice cars, that's what you think of. That's what you think of success. So I started my business at 17, my first company, and lost everything at 25. 2006 happened. Lost everything, bankrupt at 24. It was crazy. I think I made like $600,000 a year before that year. I made zero. And the economy crashed. And then what happened was I was in shock, but I thought that everything I built up over the last, let's say, 7 years was gone, but what I built it for was still there. Like my kids were healthy, everything was still there. So I realized that the real wealth in my life were the reasons why I do things, not the things that I had. So fast forward, now I'm 43. I have 3 kids, healthy. 2 of them are grown ass adults now, and the awesome part about it is that like I do everything for them, but I show them what having a purpose-driven life is all about, and building a legacy is all about. So I do everything today on purpose, and I do it with purpose, and I know the reason why I get up every day, the reason why I do what I do every day, and my whole job now is to fulfill other people's lifestyles by helping them bring back, that sense of purpose, or find that sense of purpose so they can live their best life.
That's awesome, man. So one of the things that you just said was growing up, you grew up where your mother was working 9 to 5, and that was something that you observed and you knew you didn't want that for yourself. Mm-hmm. What other early observations did you make that you were like, nope, that's not for me. Nope, that's not how I want to live my life. This is how I want to do it.
So I just remember I didn't even know what 9 to 5 was. I thought everyone had a job because nobody in my family was, really successful, or anyone was even a business owner. We did have one cousin. I remember, when we were young, we would always go to this one cousin's house. They'd have pool parties, and that was like the wealthy cousin, the nice house, the nice cars, the fun toys, and we saw that stuff, but we didn't realize what the difference was. Like we didn't see that, that was one side of how you can think versus a side that we're conditioned to think. So I remember talking to my dad, early on in life, and I told him I wanted to be rich, and he said, well, you're not going to be rich because those are other people. So I was like, I got to figure out how to be like those other people.
Yeah.
And what I realized over the years, it's just the way we think. We go to school from 1st grade to 12th grade for 12,000 hours. We get taught how to be average by average people. And at the end of the day, like they can't fulfill a legacy for us to go out there and do big things and accomplish big things because, they're at a small standard. Listen, we all need teachers. We all need professors. But a teacher and a professor can't teach you how to make $40,000, $50,000 a month because they don't do it. They can't teach you how to go out there and, write books that are going to change the world because they're not doing it. You know what I'm saying? So like you have to figure out where you're going to get that information from. And it's quite simple. Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, podcasts, everything. People give out information for free every day. But until you're introduced to that world, you don't even know that.
It's funny because it's so true. And, ever since I shifted my mindset where, I could do everything as long as I put the systems in place, as long as I also lean on relationships that are going to add value to my life and, further push that purpose. Who are some early mentors that you leaned on?
So my first mentor was my first boss. When I was 16 years old, 17 years old, I worked for him. And I used to go to his house on the weekends. So I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was 16, and it just so happened I got my first job. And this guy, his name was Dave. He had 3 kids. He had an awesome house, a beautiful wife, and he was living the dream. I was like, this is crazy. So I literally would ask him. I'd work with him Monday through Friday. I'd be like, hey, can I come to your house this weekend? You want me to sweep your garage, rake your leaves, do everything, just to pick his brain. And I would literally go there be there at 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday and Sunday and pick his brain. He'd take me to the bagel shop. He'd have a whole bunch of buddies that would meet there on Saturday morning, coffee. Hey, this is my buddy Dan. And I just got to see a different side of the world.
Yeah.
And he was the first person who ever told me that he believed in me and that he knows I'll be successful. And I've never heard that in my entire life. And he was my first mentor. And then, throughout the years, I hired coaches, business coaches. I read books. And, I hung out with influential people. And as I grew into a bigger and better person in my industry, the caliber of people grew. The size of their lifestyle, the size of their success, the size of everything they've ever brought to the table grew. And I truly believe that putting yourself in the rooms and in a space with people who you want to be like is super important. And what I found out is that throughout our life, we're usually the most influential person in a room, or we're surrounded with a circle of people who all carry the same influence. And that's at the end of the day, there's no growth pattern there, and you're not going to ever be able to, get to the next level.
It's so funny that you say that because, one of the things that we talked heavily about in my conversation with you and Anthony on the Intrepidus podcast was, my journey through recovery and understanding how I had to transform. And, you just kind of alluded to it where it's changing the people, places, and things that you hang out with. And for me, obviously, I had to do that from a lifestyle standpoint. But now I find myself doing that from a professional standpoint as well, which is something that you just said that you did. Just with the exposure to your old boss and the group that he was putting you in, now that, you take that experience, and I want to talk about that journey of just starting your own business at the age of 17.
Yeah.
What kind of business? It was contracting?
Construction, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to vocational school and, I learned carpentry. So at the end of the day, I felt like I knew enough to do what I had to do. So I literally made a business card that I installed windows, doors, and decks, and I was knocking on doors, trying to get everything I could. Yeah. And then we built our first house when I was 21. And it was just a learning experience, and I knew that I had to start somewhere. I remember my best friend's dad, my friend John, growing up, my first job I ever had, he let me finish his basement. I had no fucking idea what I was doing. But you know what? He's like, this shit looks amazing. It looks awesome. And just from what I learned in school, I just figured it out. I did it for free. He literally bought the materials, and I was like, I just wanted to do it because he was my friend's dad, and I just helped him out. He bought me lunch. He did this, whatever. I hung around with the guy forever. I always knew him because of my friend. So, but he gave me an opportunity. And what I found out in life is that people give us opportunities. But so many times we give up the opportunity. Because the opportunity, it looks like work. It looks like something we have to be attracted to. It's not fun. And we don't realize that, when we have to jump into trenches and actually do things and someone offers that to us, that takes us to the next level of life.
Dude, it's so true. Even like, I'm in the early stages of my business, and, I do event management. And the first event that I really did was a big one. It was a gala for a foundation, and I didn't really get paid much on that. I didn't do it really for the salary. I did it for the experience and the connections. And now I find myself working with luxury brands and getting paid for it,
Yeah.
So, it's so true. Like those first couple of jobs that you do, if you're passionate about it, you're doing it because you love the work that you're doing, and you understand that this is just planting a seed of growth because bigger things are to come. So as you watch your business grow from 17 to 20, you said then you hit that spot where it was like, oh shit.
Yeah, when I was 24.
That oh shit moment.
I had 2 kids, and the phone stopped ringing. So that was like the economic downfall, 2006, 2007, when the economy crashed. And when I got involved in business, there was nothing but good business. So like the money was flowing since day one.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I had the Benz, I had the Escalades, I was living MTV cribs. None of that shit was rented. It was mine. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I'm like, all right, well, it's time for a voluntary repo. Let's go drop this off. Let's go drop that off. And at the end of the day, I couldn't afford it no more.
Yeah.
And there was no option to keep doing what I was doing because I wasn't willing to sacrifice whatever I had left. So I got involved in a sales industry. A buddy of mine, he was in construction as well. Things were falling. He kept calling me up. He's like, hey, imagine you got paid every time the phone rang. I'm like, dude, you're out of your mind. What are you fucking smoking crack? Like, it's okay to curse on here, right? You don't care?
I don't care.
I'm like, what are you smoking crack? He's like, dude, just come check it out. It's time after time after time. So he's like, bro, can you just come to a meeting? So I was like, at the time I was married, I told my wife, I was like, listen, I got to go to this meeting. I don't want to go. Frank keeps calling me, but I'm just going to go. He told me wear my best business attire. I said, where's those brand new boots in the box that I never wore yet? So I put brand new Timberlands on, a pair of pants that had no holes in them. And I rode my chopper there. My chopper motorcycle.
That's awesome, dude.
So everyone's there in suit and ties, and I was in my best business attire. A brand new hoodie, brand new shorts, brand new boots. That was my business attire. So I remember there was a guy talking there, and he was making $40,000 a month. So I totally know that to make money in this world, ignorance on fire is the best way. Like the less you know, the more you can make. People try to know everything and be ready for everything, and that's where they always lose out on opportunity. So I literally said, what do I got to do? He told me to put people in front of this opportunity. I did. Made $6,600 my first month and made millions of dollars over the course of the next 5 years. Was featured.
What were you selling?
Like phone service, internet service, like reselling services.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a multi-level marketing company.
Okay.
Direct sales. So I was involved in that company for 5 years. I was in the top 5 of the company consistently for 5 years. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. But at the end of the day, I just knew that I had to get people in front of it and get people to switch their service. And it was super simple. I kept it super simple, right? So it's the effect of success, KISS. Keep it super simple. When you make things complicated, that's when life gets complicated. So I was featured in Success magazine. I was on The Apprentice twice. I had great opportunities there. And then got involved in another company. And during that time, Hurricane Sandy happened. So I saw it as an opportunity to get back in construction. Things were starting to, change. So I got back in construction. I stopped doing all that stuff. I still get paid residual today, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But my passion was always construction. And so I continued to do that, built a company. I did, millions and millions of dollars per year. And I just realized that like in 2022, I had a heart attack, and I literally sat down and I said, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I working so hard? What's my purpose? And I thought my purpose was success. And I said, you know what? My purpose is now to be meaningful to other people and to be able to help other people grow, because you don't know when that last minute is. So I truly rely on the fact that, the day we're born is unknown. The day we die is unknown. The only thing that we have is a hash in between. And that's what people remember us by. And that's what we build our legacy by. So we only have today. We don't have tomorrow. We don't have yesterday. So all we could do is on that hash right now is work on today. So how do I help people live their best self and be their best self? So that's how I got, more into coaching. If you see my Instagram and my podcast, like, dude, I give out such free shit. You know what I mean? My content is unbelievable. And I do it because if I could change one life, I do 52 episodes a year on the Big D podcast, and then 52 episodes a year on the Intrepidist podcast. So if we could help one person on every episode, that's 104 people that their lives can be changed just because of some information. Yep. And we're not looking for anything. So when you change people's lives and you make money secondary, you'll always be taken care of. But when you make money first and think that your success and your wealth are created by money, listen, money's great. It solves problems. But money doesn't bring the true meaning of what we're here for.
Yeah, I love that. Does that mean I have to go back to Jersey to be on the Big D podcast now? Fuck.
You can't be on the Big D podcast. It's a solo podcast.
Oh, it's a solo podcast?
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Okay, so you said a lot there. And, one of the things that I have found to be kind of absolute with this podcast over the span of all my guests is there is a major turning point in their lives where they're like, oh my God, like I really want to lean into my purpose. And you have that defining moment. For you, it was the heart attack. I want to talk a little bit more about that. Leading up to the heart attack, can you now acknowledge certain red flags that might have attributed to it?
So COVID happened, right? And then I stopped going to the gym. So I started working out at home because you were forced to work out at home, and you can't get a good workout at home like you could at the gym. So I was like, whatever. So I just kind of like gave up on like taking care of myself. And then that'll bring me into a story I could talk about in a second. But I just like wasn't taking care of myself, number one. Number two, I was running on 1,000. Instead of like hitting a break for a second, checking myself, I literally was running myself to, endless fumes every single day. I had just recently gotten divorced a couple of years before that. And, I thought my pivotal moment in my life was when I got 50-50 custody with my kids, because I was forced to now spend time with my kids on the days I had them and work more the days I didn't. When I was married, I was always working no matter what. But it was good because I built great relationships with my kids, but then I was burning myself out the days I didn't have them. I was working till 10 o'clock at night. I was doing everything I could. And after, the episode of my heart happened, prior to that, I was already going to the heart doctor because, they said I had a leaky valve and I was getting that shit checked out. And it was just one day. I was with my daughter. We were somewhere. It was hot as shit. I don't really drink soda. I drank soda. And I think I ate some shitty food or something. And like literally my blood pressure went through the roof. And my daughter's mom had just picked her up. And like 5 seconds later, I'm like, fuck, dude, what's going on? And wrist to wrist, dude, my whole body went numb. And I just, in that ambulance ride, I thought I was dying. I told my kids I loved them. My one son didn't talk to me. He just started talking to me again. 4 years he didn't talk to me. So at that point, it was
after the heart attack?
No, he didn't talk to me prior to that.
Oh, okay.
But he just started talking to me about 5 weeks ago. But I haven't talked to him in like 4 years. So at that point, it was probably about a year where he didn't talk to me. And I was texting all my kids, I love them, sending them like videos on my phone because I thought that was it, bro. I thought it was done. By the time I got to the hospital, everything was good. My levels came down. I took some aspirins and drank some water. And, I didn't have clarity. I don't remember that ride, but I remember like freaking out to my kids and telling them like, I love you, all that shit. And then, after that, I'm like, man, I got to change what the fuck I'm doing, Yeah. So that was a pivotal moment for me where it's like, what's really important here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Prior to that, you obviously being a father is a huge part of who you are. And when you were in that grind and your primary focus was making money and building your business, how did that affect your relationships with your family? I mean, you just kind of alluded to it a little bit with one of your sons. So,
I think me and my ex-wife got divorced because, number one, she got pregnant with my first son 6 months after I met her. And she worked probably 60, 70 hours a week in the beginning. I worked the same. We had a nanny raising our kids. We had no time to build a relationship. So we actually like grew to hate each other and like not like each other. And we just stuck with it forever, and then I was finally at a point where my kids were questioning stuff. I'm sleeping in my daughter's bed and, I'm just like, this is fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to live this life. And I said, my daughter is going to think that this is normal. And at the time, she was probably like 9. So I said, if I don't change what I'm doing now, my daughter's going to accept this type of behavior and she's going to be in a similar relationship. So how do I change this? How do I do something different? So I felt like divorce was the best option because we were so broken apart and so far apart and we saw life in 2 different ways. It was all I had to do. But I do believe that, it took a burden. I was always there for my kids, sports games and everything, but I wasn't there for maybe practices and stuff and, different stuff. But I didn't have the knit close relationship with my kids that I have now because of that. Because, there was always like, we had someone who was driving our kids to sports. Like we would pay people because we're always working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then we were forced to do this stuff. So I was able to build relationships with 2 of my 3 kids. Which my third son, my third child, my second son, so confused right now. Maybe I'm having another heart attack. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Jesus.
So my second son, I'm building that relationship now. I said 4 because 4 years I haven't had to build a relationship with him. So I've been seeing him every weekend, been having fun, riding dirt bikes.
Why were you guys estranged, if you don't mind me asking?
So, I don't really know the reason, and I just got asked this on another podcast. In my opinion, I think it was parent alienation. Listen, I don't blame my ex for what she did, and I don't blame anyone. I take full personal responsibility because at the end of the day, everything that happens in our life is a result of how we react to it or what we do to make it happen. So, my ex was able to take him in, and he was able to live a simpler life without rules or whatnot. I don't know. Without, me telling him what to do. So maybe it was easier for him. But me and my ex still don't really talk. We don't have a good relationship. And it was a lot easier. We had a very, very, very messy divorce. But, thank God my other 2 kids just didn't want to deal with the bullshit. And they didn't, put anyone on either side. So my one son did. So that's kind of
Was it that your other 2 kids were more capable of detaching themselves from the situation that was happening between you and your ex, and your middle son was kind of in the middle of it?
So my daughter was young, and now she's still young. She's 14.
Yeah.
So she would go back and forth and tell us both things that the other parent did, because she was a kid. You know what I mean? She didn't know what to do. Now she doesn't want to get involved.
Snitching on everyone.
Yeah. Now she doesn't want to get involved. My oldest son, we were just super close, and he's my best friend. We do so much together, and it was just different. My other son, I always say, listen, there's always that one boy or one girl that's attached to the mom.
Yeah.
That's them too.
Mama's
boy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But not in a bad way.
Yeah. That's how I was. I was very much, my mom was my advocate, and I leaned on her, and she was also, my rock. And, my dad, I had more of an adversarial relationship with him. And he was more of a disciplinarian. He was a little more strict, but really for me, my mom was kind of a pushover, if I really had to, be honest, because, I knew I could kind of pull at the heartstrings of her empathy.
Yeah.
And then she would go to my dad and be like, "Oh, cut him a break." It's like, no, like, fucked up,
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, like, now, having him back and open to building a relationship, that must mean a lot to you.
It's hard. I don't really know how to react to it. I just take it day by day. I don't ask him any questions. We just kind of go by the day. We're cool. And, he calls me now, asks me questions, asks me for advice, like just stuff that he never did. She had 4 years of his high school career and like brought him into manhood, so now like, I don't know what she taught him. I don't know what she did to him. But all I can do is try to teach him now what he doesn't know.
Yeah.
And if I see something's a bad pattern, maybe unwind that and tell him why. But I'm not interested in talking to him about the past because it's over. Like it doesn't matter what happened. What's important is that like after 4 years you're back.
Yeah.
So let's just focus on that.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that's always like the best path, where it's like, all right, like let's do our best to pick up where we left off and be there for each other. So, one of the things that you mentioned was your company, filing for bankruptcy with your company and then jumping into that. I want to talk about, and I hate the word, but I'm going to say it, failure. And what I mean by that is, things that didn't go as planned. And let's talk about that a little bit, because I know, like, obviously on your entrepreneurial journey, there have been times where, we all either get no's or things don't work out the way we planned. What is your perspective there?
I love failure. Failure fills your purpose. And it's like building muscle, right? You need resistance. Failure is resistance. And it's resistance to everything you're doing. And you can't build muscle unless you have tons of resistance. You can't build a successful life unless you have tons of failure. So my book that's actually like ready to go, I'm not launching it yet. I'm waiting until I get 100,000 followers on YouTube. But my book is called Failing Your Way Uphill. And it talks about 14 failures of life, how you use them for fuel. Nobody even knows that it's me in the book until the end of the book. But it just talks about 14 failures of life and why you should use these types of failures and situations for success. So the problem is I totally believe by the age of like 20 to 25, most people lose their whole mental attitude of strength and they become complacent in life. And they just, I'm happy I got a job. I'm happy I got a car that takes me from point A to point B. Like, what the fuck, bro? When you were a kid, you wanted a Ferrari. You know what I mean? Now, at the end of the day, you're driving a Toyota Corolla that has 3 tires and a spare tire on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but as long as it's getting you somewhere. So what happens is we take failure in life and we create episodes and we feel like we're not good enough anymore. And that's what happens in life. So like when you were a kid, you fell off your bike, you got back up. The only person that fucking screamed was your mom. You know what I mean? Like nobody cared. Like you were like, I'm going. You were determined. Why are we not like that as adults? So this is why the population, 97% work for 3%, because the 3% kept having that childlike mentality, kept having that, failure is inevitable, it's going to happen mentality, versus becoming paralyzed in life. So I totally believe that I use like failure as a superpower for me. And when things fail or things go wrong, sometimes I just gotta kind of like think to myself, okay, what am I learning from this? And how can I grow through this as I go through this? Versus like paralyzed, shut my door, close myself out from the world for 6 months, and now I'm back. You know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna go through it.
What do you do to incorporate this in your team?
People that work for me?
Well, frankly, the people you work for, and obviously as a father as well, but definitely like, you've managed teams before and you managed companies before.
Yeah.
How do you do your best to incorporate that and make them adopt that same mentality?
So, failure is not the end point. And failure leaves room for progression. And a lot of times, people see failure as an ultimate way for them to like give up and say they tried something. But what you have to realize is that everybody sucks before they're good. So everything you've done in your life, if you're great at it right now, you sucked when you first started. Like if you've never played basketball and you go grab a basketball, you try to shoot some hoops, bro, you ain't fucking making it in. You know what I'm saying? Like, but at the end of the day, if you practice and practice and practice, you're going to get better. So anyone that's ever worked with me or anyone I've ever coached, I just try to help them understand that like failure is a starting point of all achievement, and you have to allow yourself to go through it, and you have to work on your recovery time. So if something gets you upset for like a week, how do we turn that into 2 days? How do we turn 2 days into 2 hours? How do we turn 2 days into 2 seconds? For me, like, dude, if shit happens, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I'm driving from New Jersey here. I see all these fucking people throwing their hands up and this guy, yelling at people. Yo, we're all going to the same place and we ain't getting there any quicker.
Yeah.
By you looking like a lunatic yelling in your car at yourself, guys laughing at you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but this is the perception of the way people think. Like they think because they can go out there and just shout out and scream and blame everybody else. You can't blame people for the situations going on. You just got to react to them in the best way possible so you can get the best result.
So true. And one of the things that I think that is rampant is people like are constantly just trying to impose their will on to situations that, why don't you just let it play out, make the best of the situation and how it turns out, I also think the mental and emotional component that's attached to failure, people cling to that way too much, where it's either they're beating themselves up about it or they're blaming it on other people. That's the natural instinct that a lot of people have when things don't go their way or they face a moment of failure, essentially. What do you say to people who lead with emotion in these trying situations?
So basically, like if you talk to me and you were blaming somebody else or you made excuses for it, I would straight up tell you, listen, bro, there's two bags in this world, excuses and blame. Once you let go of them, your life's in front of you.
Yeah.
You can blame anyone for anything, but every reaction in life that we have is based on the way that we think about things and based on the outcome that we're looking to get. So when people react, and freak out and, start blaming and start being like so pissed off about something, like what's the end result going to be? Like, where is that going to bring you?
Yeah.
And I think it takes people a long time to realize that they are their own worst enemy and the worst place to live is in your head. But situation is done. What's done is done. All you can do is learn from it and keep moving on. And you can't change it. But people want to talk about shit that happened 5 years ago, 6 years ago. What's that going to do for you?
Yeah, one of the things that I hate also is when people judge other people based on something that happened like a long time ago or holding grudges. Because, I in the past was kind of a grudge holder. And now, once I changed myself, then the perspective that other people had on me also shifted to where they were open to collaboration or they were reaching out and saying, hey, listen, like, what you just posted was super inspirational. And, people who I was under the impression hated me and I harbored a resentment towards them because I thought that's how they felt about me. I think so often that we assume how other people feel that it limits us from genuinely reaching out to them, being like, hey, like, I see you're doing this. I'm doing this. We could actually collaborate and work together. Mm-hmm. Because I think, relationships are really important just for mutual growth. And at the end of the day, like, the assumption that we know how someone else feels is even more toxic than just like myself leading in with emotion.
Yeah. So when I think about that is like, there's a couple sides to that. People see you as the old Adam, and some of them will always see you as the old Adam. Fuck them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Listen, I've lied, robbed, cheated, done all this shit in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not fucking perfect. But that's created me to become the version of me that I am today. And it's allowed me to create the person I am today by learning from all those episodes. And if people want to hold that shit against me, I don't give a fuck. Like I've leveled up.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to look past that and look at who I am today, that's fine. But now, at the end of the day, if there's people who are seeing what I'm doing and they're proud of what I'm doing and they want to be a part of what I'm doing, and maybe like we had a shitty memory back then, but we could do something, bro, we all grow up. You know what I mean? Like, we got to go through shit to get our shit right. And, you know, we're always going to go through shit, and we're always going to evolve, and we're always going to be different than we were 3, 4, 5 years ago. Well, some people don't change, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to make a difference and you're trying to make an impact, you're going to grow through stuff, and you're going to have to either leave people behind you or some of them are going to come with you, and you can't worry about that shit.
Yeah, for me, like, a lot of it has, you know, especially the past year, it's been really like kind of a journey of cleaning my side of the street in a sense, you know, where there were certain people who I know I had wronged, and just reaching out to them and being like, listen, like, I just want to acknowledge this.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't me in my best state of mind. That wasn't me. That wasn't the best version of me that you saw, and I'm sorry that you had to see that. And 9 out of 10 times, people are just like, dude, like, I really appreciate that call. I really appreciate, you know, you reaching out. And, you know, just the other day, I ran into someone from the past who, you know, I definitely did them a little dirty. And I just walked up to them and was like, hey, listen, like, you know, it's nice to see you. Nice to see you doing well. They were with their kid, you know, and I was just like, you know, like, you have a beautiful family. You know, I just wanted to, like, genuinely say that, you know, I want to, you know, the past is the past, and, you know, I genuinely apologize if I ever hurt you or said anything. And they looked at me like, not expecting, because people don't expect you to do that.
Yeah.
And we're just like, wow, man, like, I really, really appreciate it. He introduced me to his kids, and it was at Costco. He was like, you want to sit and eat with us? And I was like, I don't need a $2 hot dog, but, like, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but like those type of things, it's like, we don't live in a society that really breeds that, you know, like, we live in a society where it's like, you know, just move fast, you know, like, kind of keep your eye on the ball. And sometimes people get affected and you don't even know that you're affecting them, you know?
Yeah.
What do you say to, like, the fast pace of just society now, you know, and how do you do your best to just kind of slow it down at some points and just really take it in and really navigate your moves in a strategic fashion where you're really grounded in your purpose?
So I don't allow the outside world to make noise in my life. I've got a pretty simple routine every day. I get myself right before I attack myself to the world. You know, I wake up early, I read, I write, I work out. I do everything I got to do. So for the first couple hours, the world's not even seeing me, and I'm doing shit before the world even wakes up. And I think the reason why a lot of people get executed by the noise is because the minute they wake up, they're on their phone, they're looking at TikTok, they're looking at Instagram. Like, fuck those people. You know, at the end of the day, like, your life is yours, and if you don't take control of your life and give your first couple hours to you, bro, what value do you even see in yourself, number one? Number two, like, there's going to be so much shit going on. I don't watch TV. I don't know what's going on in the news. I don't know what's going on in politics. Like, yeah, I'll watch a debate because the shit's funny. You know what I mean? But, like, it is what it is. Like, you know what I mean? There's nothing I'm going to do to change anything. And I'm not trying to have an argument with someone, you know, about something. Like, my tattoo guy, he's tattooing me, and he's like, you know, your boy Trump. I'm like, bro, I don't give a fuck, honestly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even want to talk about it because it's confrontational. It's opinionated, and we're going to sit here and debate about bullshit. Let's just talk about something else. Let's talk about your family, my family, what your life goals are, where you're going when you retire. That's rather what I talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't get myself involved in the noise, and we are in a fast-paced world. You got to kind of keep up with what's going on, but I think that at the same time, you got to give yourself time, and that's what a lot of people neglect to do is give themselves time. Like, they're on their phone till the minute they go to bed. They're fucking wired with the internet. And as soon as they wake up, they're doing the same thing. I literally drove here the whole time, dude. 3 hours.
Listening to the Finding Purpose podcast, right?
I listened to a couple podcasts, but I didn't take one phone call. I didn't do nothing. I actually dropped my phone. I picked my phone up because I was texting you that I'm an hour out real quick. And somehow I got to Instagram and I hit my story. So my stories were playing under my seat for like 35 minutes because, you know, there's no shoulder. You can't pull over, right? So, like, I put a little reel up like, hey, listen, my ass was listening to you guys, but, like, I wasn't story creeping. You know?
Oh, you went live?
No, I posted a story saying, like, yo, I'm not a story creeper, but I just saw all your stories for the last 35 minutes. I didn't see them, but my ass was watching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I said something funny. But I took that time because I just knew that there's things going on in my life right now. There's transitions going on in my life. There's things I need to do. So I said, I'm going to take this 3 hours and I'm just going to think, and I'm just going to, work on the things that I need to develop, think about the things I need to do. When, people rather take the phone the whole time, be on their phone the whole time, and, listening to music and doing that kind of stuff, like that doesn't do anything for you. When you have that kind of opportunity to have your time, take it.
Yeah.
Because it's so healthy for you and it's so needed for you.
It's so funny, dude. I'm the same way. Like, especially if I'm, like I go to a meeting and it's like kind of just like a intense meeting, I'll get in my car, man, and just like drive in silence sometimes, and just me and the road and my thoughts. And I'll take, you can still do breath work while you're driving, and I'll take some deep breaths and just really just like calm myself down and just get into that moment, because I need those momentary resets throughout the day.
Yeah.
Because it kind of just recalibrates me, and it just allows me not to really bring the emotion of one interaction into another one. And it's part of the self-care routine. Like I love what you said about, taking those first couple of hours of the morning and really dedicating it to yourself. And that's something, I really pride myself on doing. Really, most of my posts I automate, so like my week posts are automated where they're scheduled to drop, like I do it usually every Sunday night, so that I can not really micromanage my social media. Obviously, like I'm going to engage at some certain part. But it's a delicate balance for folks like me and you who also rely on social media also to build our audiences and build our platforms. Talk a little bit about that, because, that's how we connected.
Yeah. So I schedule my stuff too. I usually schedule like a couple days out, and but I do go on social media for about 1 hour a day just to get back to the comments. I get like 50, 100 comments. I try to get back to everybody. It's a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? And I don't want to really hire somebody right now because, I feel like I'm building pretty genuine relationships. I want people to know that it's me interacting, and I'm doing everything I got to do. And, your presence is important, but your peace is more important. But yeah, social media is a huge tool for me. Instagram's a huge, huge tool for me. And, everyone and my followers and the engagement, I looked yesterday, like 1.9 million, people, visited my profile in the last 30 days. It's a lot of fucking people, you know what I mean? And it's good because I'm engaging, but I'm not like being a social asshole. You know what I mean? Like I go and I know how you're supposed to do. You go on there and the first 10 things that come up that are people that you engage with, you like them, you comment, move on. I'm not going to sit there for 2 hours and do everything, and then your feed will keep feeding itself. But people take the social world like a little too serious. But I think everyone who's got a really good life in front of them understands that you need to have a social media balance.
Yeah.
But everyone who has no purpose in life and they're not driving towards anything, brother, fucking like brainwashed with that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been through periods of time, particularly when I was in the early stages of really like, this podcast and just diving into my purpose with, events and whatnot. I was very much like that, where I would get sucked in and start comparing myself and start, what are they doing and what are they doing? And when I stopped doing that, I felt like I was just living way more purposefully, and even the conversations that I was having here were, I was able to focus like seriously on what I was trying to get with a guest and what message I was really trying to get out, because social media also gives you an opportunity to compare yourself. And what is it, Theodore Roosevelt, comparisons to the thief of all joy?
Yep.
And, that's something that I have to constantly tell myself, comparisons to the thief of all joy, when I find myself doing it. And it's like that check-in. And, I think it's so important for me to also acknowledge there's like a lot of people who like love what I'm doing, and, having that period of gratitude where I can be like, wow, like this is amazing. Gratitude is something that like checks me like every single time, where it's like, dude, like fuck off, like stop comparing yourself to other people. Like what you're doing is great, and you've built a great network and you're connecting with awesome people.
One thing I could say is,
yeah, go ahead.
You're your own unique self.
Yeah.
Everybody else is taken. So when you start putting yourself in a comparison trap, no matter how much you compare,
Yeah.
you guys have two different lives ahead of you, two different purposes ahead of you. So even though you want to see yourself, my business coach said it best. And he's like, I can't stand fucking people who wear the last name of somebody else on their back. And if you guys are those people, you know what I mean, that, wear jerseys, think about that. Like, why ain't your name on your back?
Yeah.
Why aren't you giving yourself that clout? Why aren't you maybe getting that team jersey, but get, how you can get a team jersey and put your name on the back? Do that. Number one. Like, you should be your biggest fan. You shouldn't be somebody else's biggest fan.
Yeah.
So when you live a life like that and you stamp somebody else's name on your back, or you stamp your time on somebody else's frame, and you're always following them and doing stuff, like, you're literally like living in the shadows of a life that you're never going to have.
So you retired the Josh Allen jersey, huh?
I never wore a jersey.
I'm just kidding.
I have jerseys. Like, I have a lot of signed memorabilia.
Yeah,
you
I love
see,
that
like,
shit.
it's all hanging up, but I don't wear a jersey. I never wore a jersey. Even before he said that, I never wore a jersey.
Yeah. It's so true, man, because at the end of the day, if you're not supporting yourself and, putting yourself first before anything, you're also not in a position to help others. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really where my purpose is grounded, is in helping others and conveying the message of like-minded folks like yourself and really trying to share it. Yeah. Because, that's where I find that I get the most fulfillment out of, because, so much of my life prior to this journey has been of taking. Like, I was a taker for much of my adult life. And now, it's so important for me to be able to share my message and share my story. And, it sounds like you're also in that same space. Now, when you talk about purpose, how would you define your purpose?
So, like I said earlier, like, I thought my purpose was success, but now I truly believe that my purpose meaning is to help other people be their best and really show people, the hidden truths of who they are versus who they think they are. Number one. Number two, building a legacy for my family, my kids, and just showing them that no matter what, like, dude, I've been through shit. You read my book, you're going to fucking know I've been through shit. So when people try to compare, I'm like, listen, I almost got locked up for 7 years. But
tell that story.
So it's stupid, but like, you put yourself in a space and you put yourself in places, but I truly believe that God's got a little game out there. Like, how bad do you really want it? And when you've realized that and you think that you're unfucking stoppable, like, and the devil's like, yeah, come down my way. God fucking smacks the shit out of you. You know what I mean? So yeah, I was, this was 2017. I got arrested. I was buying steroids online, bro. Like, I've been doing steroids my whole life. You know what I mean? Like, why lie? I was bodybuilding when I was younger, and I wasn't going to the doctor, and I was just getting my shit overseas. And, there was like a bunch of us. There was like 5 of us that were, all embedded. And it was my turn to, like, get the order taken in, and we all pooled our money. I wasn't selling anything. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it was like 5 dudes, and it was like we all took turns to, like, send the money, take the package. One of the dudes got a domestic, and then, he basically set me up to give him his order. And I got fucking like 37 charges, all this crazy shit. Yeah, it was fucking.
How long ago was this?
2017.
2017.
Yeah, so I was going away for like 7 years, 5 to 7, because of the amount of stuff that I had. And again, it was all personal use. And they came, we should take this. I had a business. I'm like, dude, like, this is all for my business. I'm not a fucking drug dealer. You know what I mean? But, like, listen, cops want to make a story for themselves. They want to make, some bullshit to put. They took money that we had. So I fought that shit until, like, I think 2019, I ended up going on probation. Yeah. Because I had to pay a lawyer very hefty to do that. Yeah. And a friend of mine actually was an ex-drug addict, and he was locked up for some time. He actually helped me and gave me some advice, and he came and sat with me and my lawyer, and we were able to, like, take the situation, for what it was. So ended up having probation. I'm good. Like, everything's good. I'm expunged now. Everything's cool. But, that was a scary fucking time in my life, because at the end of the day, like, they know, the prosecutors know, the judge, they know you got money, bro. They want to fucking drain you. You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
is the court system and the legal system is so
Hitting you with fines.
so
and
fucked up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a
crazy
money
shit.
making machine as well. You
Yeah.
know, like for me, prior to getting sober, like my DUIs are a huge part of my story, and they're expensive.
Yeah.
They're fucking expensive. They're like 10 to 20 grand a pop.
Yeah.
And the deeper you get, the deeper it is. And that's not even including multiple stints of rehab, which are 30 grand a pop, 40 grand a pop. And yeah, it's funny though, because it really didn't take that, like, for me to really like assess and hit a bottom. Like the first time I got one, it was just like, okay, like I'm an asshole, and let's modify behaviors, and then till I get everything back, and then go back. And it was very cyclical for me. And there was a period of time where I had violated probation for a previous one, and was in a different state and got another one, and I ended up having to go to jail for 4 months for it. And that was one of the craziest points in my life, because it kind of just shows for me, there's a lot of good dudes who've made mistakes.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I learned, where there's a lot of good dudes who made mistakes, were in the wrong place at the wrong time, but they still have families, they still have lives, they still have outside priorities, and they made a wrong turn. For me, obviously, I had the disease of alcoholism and addiction, where that wasn't even still enough for me, because I continued going on other runs after, and it wasn't until 2022 the way I really got sober. But you're right. Like it's kind of,
You just gotta own your shit.
you got to own your shit, and I think that's the first time I ever shared that on the podcast, and I mean, I've alluded to it in other podcasts, but podcast episodes, but yeah, like that battle was internal, but it was also with the law, and it was also with the family, and it was also with, anything good,
Being vulnerable is powerful, because people hear you saying things, and like they can sit there and they think, oh, Adam's perfect, oh, Dan's perfect, and then you're like, oh, I almost got locked up. You're like, I got locked up. They're like, fuck, you know what I mean? They're not perfect. You know what I mean? And like when you're vulnerable and people actually know like the backstory behind you, that's a lot more powerful than your story today, because it shows people that there's possibility. And I think, behind your whole purpose, podcast here, like a lot of people lose purpose because they forget and don't remember that there's possibility behind everything. And once something bad happens to them, they make that their identity.
Yeah.
Like you made alcoholism your identity for some time.
Yeah.
Then you're like, fuck this. You know what I mean? Like I want to change my shit, and you change your shit. But people will go on forever and blame it. Oh, it's a disease. It's that, it's this. Anyone could change anything at any time. You just got to be willing to, sacrifice whatever you're doing now to get the life that you want.
Well, it's also like the societal stigmas that are attached to certain things, where, a lot of people will look at an alcoholic or an addict and they picture that dude under a bridge, or they picture, that crackhead outside the liquor store. And you know what, though? Like those people have fucking stories.
Mm-hmm.
Those people have families. At one point, those people, were a classmate next to you in third grade.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't look at people who've gone through shit as people and you judge them on their hardship, and I think that's where it gets so dangerous and mean and ugly.
Yeah.
When it just comes to humanity as a whole. A lot of people couldn't, for you, be like, oh, like he did steroids, he did this. No, like, but like at the end of the day, like you're a fucking man who leads, who is a great father, and who is now empowering other business folk to build their dream life.
I still do TRT, man. I just didn't want to go to the doctor back then.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? At the end of the
yeah.
day, now the doctor just gives it to me. I was just like, I didn't want to pay the money. I was like, fuck it. You know what I mean? I was trying to be cheap and, make my own remedies.
Dude, I fucking love that.
But I know addiction. Addiction's tough. My brother battled addiction for many, many years, heroin and shit. And he's clean now. I don't know, 5-6 years. But, you see a person today that, wasn't there 5-10 years ago. And it's something, he finally made a decision to say, like,
He's sober now?
Yes, like 5 years, 6 years. He finally made a decision to say, like, I think 2001, so 2020 maybe, probably 5 years. I think this June should be like 5 years. I think he should know that number. I don't know. I just know it's around that. but you see a totally different person.
Yeah.
And, I talk to people all the time, and a lot of people I coach, it's funny, like had addiction, a lot of people who are successful had addiction.
Yeah.
And I say, listen, we still have addiction, but we use addiction for a different reason.
Yeah.
We use addiction for results versus blaming a situation and getting high, blaming a situation and drinking, blaming a situation and whatever. So you're still addicted, but you're addicted to a different outcome.
Yeah.
And once you change your mindset, how many people that are ex-drug addicts or alcoholics go to the gym? They become addicted to the gym.
Yeah.
Because they want change. They're addicted to change. Everyone's addicted to something.
Yeah.
But when you turn your addiction to your purpose and you combine it, forget about it.
Well, it's so funny, dude, because like one of my first jobs, in sobriety, I started working at a gym, and I met this woman, and she was very reputable and pretty well connected. And somehow we got into the conversation about my story, and I told her, I'm in recovery, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, I love working with people in recovery. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, people who are in recovery, nothing phases them. She was like, their ability to multitask is pretty good. And if you give them a mission, they just see the mission,
Tunnel vision.
And they get tunnel vision and they chase it. And if they're well balanced, they chase goals the way they chase their high.
Yeah.
In that same obsessive manner. And, kind of what you alluded to, where it's, there's a healthy way to transfer your addiction to a positive channel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of addicts who will, quit one thing and then all of a sudden they're fucking at Mohegan every night.
Yeah.
Obviously you want to channel it into something positive. And for me, it's like one of it. It's like this podcast. Like, dude, I'm addicted to just like doing this and talking to people and having conversations and networking and building out events has been just like an amazing passion for me, because I love creating safe places and experiences where like-minded folks with the same motivations get together and have an opportunity to collaborate. I'm really excited that you are coaching people, because I think you're just such a tremendous role model. What are some key pillars that you've integrated into your coaching program?
So we got to find the main reason why people are stuck. And 99 times it's some made up bullshit in their head. So that's the first thing. The second thing, we have to find out where they really want to go, and if they have a tangible goal to get there. And then we have to find out their reason why. So your purpose and your why are in alignment. And it's pretty crazy because most people don't know why they do what they do.
Yeah.
And then once they figure out why they're doing what they do and find out their purpose and find out the reason why they're going after certain things, it's like dynamite, and you wake up with a different feeling. You're not waking up like, this is the same shit every single day.
Yeah.
You wake up with a vision of like, hey, I got to do this. And you actually get in front of your day versus your day get in front of you, and you make shit happen.
Yeah.
So everyone's different. I coach people in business or I coach people individual. A lot of times in business, people are the bottleneck of their business and they don't ever want to let go of control, and they're control freaks, and they don't want to delegate things. And that's the biggest problem in business, is like you can only grow so much by yourself, and nobody's ever became wealthy or built a massive empire by themselves. So we got to figure out how to build a team, systems, and be able to scale this thing. And then when it's just an individual who's just stuck, you just got to find a reason. And once you find out that reason of where they are, and then you really dig through them, bro, people have cried to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they feel embarrassed, but that's the shit you need to know. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
What's the root of all this? Because there's something that's literally paralyzing you. And how do we figure that out and get rid of that so that you can keep moving towards where you're supposed to be, not where you are?
Yeah. Like, what's your why?
Yeah.
Obviously the podcast is about finding your purpose, and I have just a couple questions related to that. And what are some daily habits that you incorporate into your life to make sure that you're grounded in your purpose?
First thing I do, like I said before, I wake up, I read, I read like 5 devotionals, so scripture every day I read. And then I journal. I thank God for every day that I have. I tell him what I'm grateful for. I think a lot of people don't talk about what they're grateful for. They talk about what they need. That's a big problem. Everything that we ever needed in life, we've gotten, but we don't become grateful for the things that we have because we need more. So once you become grateful for everything that you've been provided up until this point, I believe life literally unfolds for you. And understanding that there's so many things out there for us, but we can't only talk to God or talk to whoever your higher power is or whatever. Like, you can't only have these conversations when you need something. The best time to have these conversations is when you don't need anything, because it shows true gratitude. And when you're going through a situation, that's even greater gratitude, because now you want to be understanding what you're supposed to be learning through that situation. Show me what you're trying to teach me. Help me understand where this is taking me. I know this is going down a road that's going to serve your purpose. Help me understand that, versus like complaining about it, blaming, why are you doing this to me?
Yeah.
So poor me, people. So that's the first thing I do is I journal and I read. Then I work out. And I also, I read books every day, whether it's, I listen to an ebook or I actually read books. I read probably over 2 books a month. And I work on me. So I work on my mind, my body, and my personal development, my personal well-being is just as important as my personal thought process. And at the same time, my body is more important. And I think a lot of people don't realize, like, your body is the fuel for everything, because you believe in yourself, you look good, and as long as you feel good, look good, it serves a drive for everybody else, so what I've seen is, like, so many people in this world don't realize that, like, the number one key factor to success is your health. It doesn't fucking matter what you're doing. Like, dude, I wasn't healthy, right? Like, I had a heart attack. So 15 months ago, I went to my doctor, my TRT doctor, and I'm like, yo, I got to lose some weight, man. Like, this fucking gut ain't going nowhere, right? So I was like 26% body fat, gave me like some diet shit to do and all this stuff. And, I was working out, but I wasn't working out serious since pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Started working out again. Just went back to the doctor this week. It was Tuesday. And I'm 15% body fat at 43. Look that shit up, bro. That's like good, right? And my doctor was like, holy shit. She literally said, holy shit. She saw 15%. 20, how the fuck did you do it? I said, I just did what you told me to do. You know what I mean? And I stayed consistent and I stayed with the goal. And I realized that, like, I kept telling myself every day, like, if I don't lose this weight, I didn't lose any weight, actually. I actually gained 2 pounds, but my mass index for my fat went way down and my muscle went way up. And I knew it was there, but I didn't focus on the scale. I just focused on being better, doing better, and making sure that my body was looking better day in and day out, and I felt better.
Yeah.
And after my doctor told me that, and she said, holy shit, I literally went on ChatGPT and I said, is 15% body fat for a 43-year-old man good? And ChatGPT is like, that's actually impressive for a 43-year-old. The average 43-year-old is anywhere between 20 and 25, where I was.
Yeah.
They'll take care of themselves. So, like, it's super impressive. And I mean, I didn't know. My target wasn't to be impressive. My target was just to be healthy.
Healthy, yeah.
And then when she said that, I was like, wow, like, I'm glad that I just focused on doing what I was told to get the results I was supposed to get versus trying to fight myself to lose weight. Because imagine the last however long it was, 15 months, I tried to lose weight. Like, I gained 2 pounds.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Dude, yeah. I know what you're saying.
Like, it would have freaked me out. So I think your health is the most important thing. And I've realized that it doesn't matter what you do outside of that. If you're not going to be able to live good, live long for the reason why you're doing what you're doing, what the fuck are you doing it for?
Yeah. The next question I want to ask you is how has personal vulnerability helped you in staying grounded in your purpose and accountability?
So being vulnerable and, I'm more than personal vulnerability. I tell other people, you know what I mean? I'm super vulnerable to everyone of what's going on in my life and what's gone and, being totally transparent. again, your brain is a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
It needs resilience. It needs you to understand. And then when you're vulnerable and you tell yourself your weaknesses and the things that you need to work on and the things that got you caught up, and you actually admit that to yourselves and you write that shit down, and you open up yourself to say, like, I need change and I see a different path and I see something different for me. Like, admitting to yourself first and admitting to whoever you else want to admit to is a superpower, man. It's something that, like, literally most people commit, because people want to blame every other situation, everything else going on in their life, the people around them, the food around them. Like, you know what I mean? You're a fat shit because you're a fat shit. You're not a fat shit because of anybody else. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was a fat shit because I was a fat shit.
Yeah. No, totally, dude. What advice would you give to somebody on that journey of finding purpose?
Well, find out the reason why you're doing life. Why are you here? At the end of the day, if your life was to end today, what would you want people to remember you by? And what was the reason why you were brought here? Because here's what I truly believe, that, like, people believe in God, people don't. But this is my theory, and I believe in God, and I know that one day I'm going to go to heaven. And when I see God, he's going to be like, man, you fucking blew the lid off it, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I set a path for you to do this, and you ripped the fucking lid off it. You did more than I expected. Do you want to show up one day and him be like, hey, I'm super disappointed. I've had so many opportunities for you. I've put so many things in your path, and you didn't do anything. All you did was sit there, cry, poor me, poor this, poor that. Well, guess what? The gates ain't open for you. You know what I mean? Like, this is the way I make myself think. Like, I have to do everything, and I have to blow the lid off of it. So number one, figure out why you're here. Look around you. There's a reason why you go to work every day. There's a reason why you wake up every day, and it's beyond you. Everyone, I want to make more money. Well, if you can't fucking control the money you have now, making more money is not going to be a solution. You're going to be just as broke, but on a higher level. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to have a bigger house. Well, you can't afford the house you have now. That's not going to happen either. People think material and money are going to solve all the problems in their life. But unless you have a reason why you do things, all that shit doesn't matter. You have to make money secondary. A car doesn't make you. A house doesn't make you. This shit doesn't make you. It actually breaks you. Those are all glorious things that you can have in your life after you fulfill the reason why you're doing it. They could be trophies for you. Like, you could buy the watch after you've done, a certain milestone. You could buy the car after you have a certain milestone. But why do you want to go out there? I could drive around. I don't know how it is here in New York, but I'm sure you have, like, a lot of apartments that cost a lot of money.
Or in Connecticut, and super expensive,
right? So, like, in Jersey, like, people actually have cars. In New York, people don't have cars, right? Like, they take public transportation. I don't know. I hate New York. So I don't even go there. Everyone I talk to is like pays $10,000 a month for a fucking apartment, and they don't have a car. I'm like, fuck that. So, but in Jersey, I can roll by, like, let's say a condo complex or a townhouse complex. Like, people are renting this shit, but they got a fucking brand new BMW outside. They got a brand new Audi outside. Why? Because you want status. If that's the way you're gonna live, you're not gonna get the results you want. You're not living your purpose.
Yeah.
You're living so you can look a certain way to other people so that you can feel glorified, and you're going to be empty. So what's going to fill you up? What would make you feel good? If you took the next 12 months, you said, the reason why I'm going to sacrifice X, Y, and Z for the next 12 months is to be able to do this, this, and this. Would it truly make you happy? And find out the root of what really makes you happy and why you're doing something. Because that's what people will always see you as. They don't want to see you as the broke fuck who had the Audi R8, who couldn't even afford the bitch. And you know what I mean? You were hiding at your friend's house because it wasn't getting repoed. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit doesn't do nothing. But again, I was that person back in the day. I had all the cars. I had everything, because I thought status mattered.
It's so funny. My boy just got his car repoed, and he was doing exactly the same thing. I mean, I ain't going to call you out, but,
You just called him out.
I just called him out. Yeah.
But dude, this is the way people live. And if you don't know why you're living, it's going to be a vicious cycle of the same shit over and over and over again. Yeah. It's going to be a poor me game for the rest of your life. So I truly believe that you need to figure out why you're doing shit. I do everything for my kids. Number one, I need to be the best example to them in a world that's so fucked up. And if I could teach them what it is to have resilience, to be able to fight through, And understanding adversity is something that you're going to go through every day, and you just got to keep going after what you're going after, no matter what. I've done my job. And I remember my daughter at like, I don't know, 10 years old, she had to write something in school and she showed it to me. And it said like, who's the strongest person you know? And it said, my dad's the strongest person I know because no matter what he goes through, he always gets through it. At 10, you know what I mean? But this is what I want to teach my kids because there's a reason behind it because the world isn't teaching you that shit.
Love that, Dan. Super grateful to have you here, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Glad that you stuck it out in that 3 hours of traffic.
There's no turning around, bro.
There's no fucking turning
It was
around.
looking the same way the other way.
Hell yeah, bro. If you can, talk to my audience and just tell them what you got coming out next, how they could reach you, and anything else that you'd like to add.
Sure. So Instagram, Big Dan Official, TikTok, Big Dan or Big D Official, DanSachkowsky.com. I'm sure you'll put the links in the thing. And then if you actually want, I have a free 7-day blueprint on my website, DanSachkowsky.com. It's 7 videos for 7 days. Each are about 5 minutes long. And it really gives you clarity. It gives you the right mindset. It gives you everything that you need to get to the space where you deserve. And it's totally free. I built it for every single person who feels stuck. So you can check me out on Instagram. That's my most active. Big Dan Official on Instagram. And that's it.
Dan, you're the man. Thank you, everyone who has listened and who continues to listen week in and week out. Your follows, your reviews, everything really, really means so much to just building this powerful community and for us to continue to grow. Special shout out to CV over at Kai Visions, the man, the myth, the legend, the dream producer. And thank you so much. And we look forward to next time.
Awesome.